Hey guys, Colby from Muffler Tech again. Today's video is going to be on the new Corvette, the C8, and why the exhaust system for this car is so much more involved, so much more expensive than the C7, the C6, the C5, really any Corvette that came before the C8. Now it seems like daily we are getting phone calls and more inquiries on the exhaust systems that we can do on the new C8, which fortunately are plentiful now. A lot of different companies making exhaust systems for this great car. And most people are fairly surprised about the costs associated with doing something on these. And the main reason that it is a lot more money is because this car is now what everybody has wanted in the new Corvette, a mid-engine vehicle. It shares a whole bunch of stuff with the car that's also here for an exhaust system parked next to it. This happens to be a Ferrari 458 model. But what we share in similarity is where that engine is mounted. It is midship or a mid-engine vehicle, and because the engine is mounted in the middle of the chassis and not in the front like the previous Corvette models, the exhaust system gets a lot more involved on the install and the creation of it. This car is getting a FabSpeed system today. This is FabSpeed's Valvetronic setup. Excellently made system. They sound amazing, and we'll get you some ideas on that here towards the end of the video. We're also going to do some before and after with a decibel meter here so that you can get some ideas of what the change is. But I want to take this opportunity to talk about why not only is it a lot more complex to do an exhaust on this car, but why there isn't an inexpensive, what a lot of my customers will call straight pipe. We like to call it a muffler delete. Why that's not a viable option on this application. So what you'll see here is FabSpeed's design, which is very similar to many others. You'll see on this side, this is the bank, the driver's side bank of the engine comes down and enters into this U-bend here, and then the passenger side does the same and makes it around and in through this U-bend. So what happens in this process is the exhaust system is combining the two banks together right here in what we would call normally on a front engine car, this would be an X-pipe. Still an X-pipe per se, but it's shaped differently because of the U-bends. But what's important about this is that we're combining all 8 cylinders into one place, and we want to have the pulse interaction that happens between the 4 cylinders coming from this side of the engine and the 4 cylinders coming from this side of the engine. Once we combine here, we get that pulse interaction, which changes the sound after it exits, because now we have 8 cylinders of exhaust sound down both sides, but we also get that pulse interaction to help get that scavenging back pressure to help pull the exhaust system down the system. Now, once we get into the tailpipe sections, this is where the FabSpeed Valvetronic setup's a little bit different than what you'll see from some of the other manufacturers like Corsair or Paragon, where they give you an option, and FabSpeed does have one that's more simplistic. But this setup uses the factory valves that mount here. So when you put the car in track mode, this the motor that will mount on here will turn that valve open, and essentially the exhaust system will bypass this muffler to this tailpipe and go straight out here, which will give you a much louder setting in track mode. Now when you put it more in touring mode or the sport mode, depending on how you're driving the car, this will close, and then the exhaust then is rerouted through this tailpipe section that has to pass through this resonator here. Now these resonators aren't large, but they do absorb a lot of sound in there, and that will give us 2 different levels and some adjustability to this exhaust system. Combining the 2 banks together is not a new thing. I'll show you, we do it often in custom situations, like in this Porsche 914 race car that has a small block Chevy in it. We have the rear catback on the car as we're building it here, but you can see what happens is the exhaust comes down this header, goes down this pipe, and goes into that U-bend X-style pipe there, whereas the other side comes out of the header and travels down. We're still in the middle of building this system, so it's not finished yet. But I wanted people to see that this is a commonly done practice in a mid-engine vehicle that has two separate banks of an engine, like a V or a flat, something like that. You know, if you have a four-cylinder, you won't only have one bank, so that's not needed. Now, I get a lot of questions. Let's say we have a customer that's willing to have it louder, or they don't care about the combination of the X-pipe and getting all the pulse contact, or I have enough horsepower, I don't care about that, I just want to do something cheap. Well, the problem with doing a muffler delete or something cheap or inexpensive on a car such as this is that everything is now enclosed. It's unlike the C7 and the previous cars, previous generations before that, where the exhaust system came down the center of the car and everything was exposed from underneath here. Everything that is in this car is behind this bumper. And in order to get this bumper off, as you'll see, we'll do some high speed of the install, so you don't have to sit through 10 hours, give or take, of install time. But you'll see how much of this car has to come apart. So if we were to go ahead and do a muffler delete with the car apart, we would have to put the car back together of every step in order to make sure that when we're building those pipes, that the tips come out in the appropriate spot. We'd have to tack them in place, bumper would come off. By the time you paid us or a similar shop to do the inexpensive muffler delete, you'd be so close, if not more, than just purchasing an exhaust system like we have here in front of us from FabSpeed or some of the other very good brands that are out there that offer pre-made systems that will not only be made and ready to go on the car, but will keep your horsepower and tend to improve it, because again, same thing we were talking about just a few minutes ago is keeping that pulse contact with that X-pipe setup. You can see that meter there, that's the stock exhaust. We're at 80 decibels or so. Go ahead and rev it up. And now that it's cooled down, seeing right around that 80. All right, put it in track mode. Yes, we're getting 110 or so. So that's your before decibel reading. All right, well, you guys have been able to witness my handiwork so far. I wanted to show you here the difference between the stock muffler, which is a pretty heavy unit, what it looks like, right next to what's going to be the vehicle's new exhaust system, the fab speed. So not only do we have much lighter weight, but we are not dealing with this huge canister here in the middle. This gives you an idea of what they look like off the car. All right, all finished. Let's see what we got for DBs now. We're sitting idle here. At 111 on startup. Now he's going to start and touring. Go ahead, Glenn. 114 or so. Let's go to track. Oh, 122. Well, there you have it, guys. That's why these cars cost so much to work on. You kind of got to see with a high speed me installing this Fab Speed exhaust system. And really what this comes down to is the Corvette has really kind of stepped up its game in that we really have a world-class sports car, but also a mid-engine car. And so do you own a Corvette? Do you want to do an exhaust system? You got to put your big boy pants on now because you're playing around with Ferraris and Lamborghinis in the mid-engine world. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for watching. Remember, Muffler Tech is the name of the business. We are a dealer for Fab Speed. We've been selling their products for just about 20 years. Excellent stuff. We're happy to help you with anything you need from them. And take a look at us on the web. Our address is gotduals.com. We also do catalytic converters, custom exhaust systems, lots of stuff in and around mufflers and exhausts. So, hey, thanks again for watching. Have a great day.